one of the pop elite at this point, right? And you get that's where you get his direction, and you get your like sexy girl, and you belong to the city, and the heat is on.
The contributions to the Jerry Bruckheimer, Don Simpson series of A's films. him and Kenny Loggins, man.
Yep. And then you have Henley's split, which clearly somebody who is conflicted about his own success and the trappings of money, but he's richer than God, and decides to I don't know. Screw Stevie Nicks and put as much cocaine up his nose as he can, and try to save the Walden Woods.
Yep.
But after a while, so Fry becomes a little more tolerable. Henley becomes insufferable because he's raging against a machine that he's a cog in.
Yep.
And that's my piece on the Eagles.
Well, I enjoyed your TED Talk, but I'm gonna just go out and say the Boys of Summer still fucking slaps.
It is. Oh, and that's what I'm saying. So the thing is that Henley's the better songwriter. If you follow the two of them, Henley's the better songwriter.
Those synths, though.
Well, okay. So
Boys of Summer.
Boys of Summer is fantastic. Boys of Summer is fantastic. Largely because you've got Mike fucking Campbell on guitar.
Yeah.
So Heartbreaker, Mike Campbell. Mm-hmm. And then you've got even like later singles. Basically, everything that stays in the '80s is pretty good. Once you get past that, you can stop listening to them.
Yeah,
but
pretty much your
End
New
of the
York
Innocence.
Minutes.
Yeah, New York Minute, End of the Innocence, and with every song that Jason is talking about, he's punctuating with air bass. I just wanted to comment on that. He's like freaking Kevin Eubanks over here.
Oh, I'm like Paul Rudd in is it I Love You Man or Slapping the Bass. Chris, welcome to.
I knew exactly what I was.
You
getting
listen
into.
to the show,
yeah.
This is a typical What the Fork.
Yeah,
I'm current. I've caught up with every episode. I know all the potential tangents, and I'm sorry for that Eagles.
But
tangent.
you've only seen one live episode. This is your second episode that you've seen.
That
live.
you're actually participating.
That you're in.
Yeah.
So.
Anyway, so yeah, but End of the Innocence, New York Minute, all that stuff, all Heart of the Matter, great songs. Mm-hmm. So now I'm done. Now I'm good. I'm good now.
Joe Walsh, though, too, man. Just Joe Walsh. It's just.
Well, Joe Walsh is a great.
We can't not
guitarist.
talk about Joe.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
I'm watching it live, how the tangents just form.
Yeah. It's amazing,
I feel
isn't
powerless.
it?
It's like a cumulus cloud.
Come in anytime. Stop. Save us from ourselves.
I tried at the beginning of it.
You did. You tried to veto it and failed.
Save us from ourselves.
Speaking of, because as soon as you mentioned Joe Walsh, it made me think of the other WTF, the Marin interview with Joe Walsh, which is pretty good.
I actually listened to that recently. It was really good. He didn't sound very good. He didn't sound very. He didn't sound well.
Dude, with as many drugs as he's put in his system, he's lucky to be alive.
Yeah.
He hasn't sounded good for like 30 years, though. I think he's been basically the Ozzy Osbourne of his type of rock and roll.
The Ozzy Osbourne of Americana.
So as soon as he starts to sing, as soon as he would start to sing Rocky Mountain High or something like that, then his voice will come through and you can hear him crisp. But if he's just in conversation, it's all slurring.
Yeah. So we have a guest.
We do, but I want to bring this up real quick because this other tangent.
Did you see what I tried to do there?
I saw what you tried to do, but this is relevant to all mutual interests at this point. I saw that the Peter Fonda interview for WTF got reposted. So does that mean Peter Fonda died?
Yes, he died yesterday.
Oh shit!
Lung failure.
Yeah.
Damn.
So.
R.I.P. Peter Fonda.
I'm gonna watch The Limey again probably in about a day or so, just because he's.
That's the one you go to instead of Easy
I like
Rider?
Easy Rider just fine, but I like it's. I've seen Easy Rider easily within the last 10 years. I haven't watched The Limey, and I own it probably in about 15 years. And I mean, Terrence Stamp is so fucking good in that movie.
Terrence Stamp is amazing anyway.
Yeah, but he's like. Tell him I'm fucking coming for him.
My favorite thing that Peter Fonda ever produced was actually Bridget Fonda.
Oh, yeah.
I had a huge
yeah.
crush on, like my number one teenage crush.
Oh,
So
is Carrie listening?
Well, see,
I told her that.
Okay.
It's fine.
I would agree with you there, but I would put her and Jennifer Jason Leigh in the same crush level. So when they did Single White Female,
Okay.
that was
It's very
Yeah.
confusing.
well, in the best way. Ignore all of the creepy stuff and just
It got very weird.
enjoy the ride.
It just got really weird.
It can get weirder. But it's calling back to our discussion of the Hudsucker proxy, and,
Which I see. Yeah.
Janet, good old.
I'm gonna. Sure,
Oh, boy.
that movie came up in my consciousness again.
Hudsucker?
Yeah, but I'll tell you off mic. It's not something. It's a work thing.
Okay,
Yeah, it's,
all right.
it's a
Now you've gotten all mysterious because you have to watch what you say because you work for.
because I work for a big media conglomerate. Yeah,
Yeah, you used to be cool, man.
yeah, and then
You got a job working for the man who sells pot and sex. So none of your people can listen to this episode.
I'm sure they don't anyway.
Oh, well. Anyway, so the reason Chris is here is that Chris is our resident expert on Infinite Jest and David Foster Wallace.
He is.
Jason over here tried unsuccessfully,
Yes.
through some fault of his own, to get...
No, it wasn't all faults of my own.
No, I said some
No.
fault of your own.
I would say 95% the fault was 5% of the fault was mine.
We call it Jason's Folly, really.
Well, okay, so there was supposed to be an Infinite Jest reading group. I have in the bathroom there a copy of Infinite Jest that I started reading.
While
And
in the
it's not-
bathroom,
well, okay. First of all,
those are some big shits, man. But then again, you are kind of a big deal.
I'm not getting into this. This is a tangent we're just not going to go
It's the
down.
first episode you actually edit.
Nope.
Oh god, that'll be the day.
Yeah, good fucking luck with that.
We got 10 minutes on the Eagles. Gone. Scatological humor. Gone.
This episode will be 5 minutes long. It'll be the shortest What the Fork ever.
Do you guys normally drink alcohol when you record this?
No.
Okay.
I think that this is the
Like the
third
third time.
alcohol episode. Yeah.
Yeah.
But they're usually pretty good.
Yeah.
They're honestly, when I track the listens, they're the most listened to. Go figure.
We should do this more
Science.
often.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if our livers can take it.
We're not like going. We're not going to like knock it out in this. We're just having like two.
Okay. Infinite Jest.
Yes.
Infinite Jest, right. Okay.
Oh,
because
see, look, he learned how to do the good transition.
May I put some
Did you see
context
what he did there?
to this?
I saw what he did there. Yes, okay. But I want to talk for a sec about the book group. Because I
Do we
bought...
have to?
We do, just for a sec. We don't have to talk about it for very
Non-existent
long.
book group.
I was fully on board. I was willing to commit. I just... I started reading it, and it just wasn't doing it for me. I have put off reading this book for at this point decades, because it's been something out there that's been like, okay, this is what it's one of those like intellectuals should read this book kind of thing, right? And it's
you're
just,
an intellectual.
I would argue that every human who can read should read this book.
Okay.
Not just intellectuals.
All right, so then let's get off the book group thing. But we did have a conversation briefly about I was trying to read this, and I couldn't get into it. And you mentioned something about like you need to be in a sort of space where you can commit to it and commit time to it and really get into it.
It's not so much a book as it is like a lifestyle choice.
Okay.
I mean, even down to carrying this thing around. I brought my copy here because it's like
It's well loved.
It's so
I think
worn.
it could stop a bullet. If
Yeah.
if you were to shoot
Oh
through
yeah.
it.
If you were to find a pocket big enough to wear it over your heart, just
I also
I mean, do you carry that around when you're in a rough neighborhood?
that might actually be a reason to get shot.
You see how worn this copy of the book is?
It's like somebody's Bible or something.
Yeah, well, it's very much like that.
So I have a question for you because I'm looking at your edition, and it's very similar to mine, except your introduction or forward is by Mr. Dave Eggers, who I love, but mine is not by Mr. Eggers.
Is it, who is the new one? Jared has it right here. I'm going to grab it.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
your cord will definitely reach that far.
Yeah. So while Chris is in Jared's bathroom.
Tom Bissell.
Yes, I have the Tom Bissell version. Yeah.
Okay. I like the Eggers version better. I have both copies.
Well, I mean, of course, because Dave Eggers wrote it, and Dave Eggers really does wrong.
Yeah, well, actually, funny, there's unearthed an early negative review that he wrote of Infinite Jest, and then years later he's writing the forward to it. Like he came
really? Eggers wrote a negative review of it?
Yeah.
That's interesting. So people do come around to it at some point.
I think so.
Like if you just sort of like let it digest or something, or ingest, or
well, I mean, not to belittle Mr. Eggers, but also like I'm sure he got paid a few Benjis, which I mean funds McSweeney's for like at least another 2 weeks.
You know what? I see Eggers, and I'm not the biggest Eggers fan, but I think I see Eggers as somebody who's not going to write the forward for something that he doesn't agree with or doesn't like.
But I would recommend to you, just as we approach season 3, and I'm not going to spoil anything, but there's parts of season 3 that are definitely influenced by some of Eggers' work.
He's somebody else I've never read.
Yeah.
All right, so can I jump in here for some much needed context? I think.
Yes, please.
The reason I'm here, before I speak any more words that were formulated in my own brain, I'm going to read. This is an interview with David Scher, producer of and creator of The Good Place and Parks and Rec, and partly on The Office,
and partly on Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Yeah. All
right, so this is an interview from Believer Mag. And the question is, I know you're a David Foster Wallace fan, and to me the idea of battling alienation by being kind to other people is at the core of Infinite Jest. Do you think Infinite Jest has influenced your writing? And Michael Scher's answer, it's not a stretch to say that it's influenced everything I've ever written. I didn't so much as read it as I almost ate it. It kind of re-scrambled my brain. Not just that book, I read more of him and actually met and corresponded with him for a while. One of his deeply held convictions was that sincerity should triumph over irony. He loved the gamesmanship and wordplay of the postmodern kind of irony, but his point was that ultimately, sincerity should win the day, and the problem is that sincerity, especially for young people, is the opposite of cool. There's nothing less cool to a 25-year-old fiction writer in Brooklyn than to simply and straightforwardly talk about your feelings. The scariest possible thing you can engage in this very basic human connection where you say, I feel this way or I am scared. And his worldview, that's what has to win. That's how people should write, and that's how people should connect with each other. The first time I read those words from him, and he said them a lot more eloquently than I just did, it was like someone had punched me in the face. I instantly realized so much of what was wrong with me as a writer was I was trying to be cool and impress people and not seem like I cared about anything. It's very hard to wear your heart on your sleeve as a writer because we live in a world where your work is being instantly analyzed and picked apart by a lot of people, and a lot of those people are very cool, and they have a cool guy agenda, and it's a real fight to do it and not worry about what people are going to think of you. There's a lot more to that, but that's basically the fact that I think David Foster Wallace, and especially Infinite Jest, is like the biggest influence on his writing is kind of why I wanted to talk to you guys about it. There are, I don't know if you remember, there was a character named Dave Wallace on The Office.
Yeah.
And there's also an
fresh from memory who the actor is.
I can't remember. He's like one of the regional manager guys.
Yeah. Okay.
And then there's also an episode of Parks and Rec which is loaded with Infinite Jest references.
Which one?
I can't remember this one either. But it's, I had to find the episode number.
Okay.
But yeah, so it's kind of a big deal too.
And as I mentioned before, I think on the show, Shore directed the Decemberist the music video.
That is true.
Where there is pretty much a whole Infinite Jest reference.
Decemberist is actually how I discovered this in the first place.
Okay.
How you discovered Infinite Jest?
Yeah, it was a review on, I think, Pitchfork, and somebody mentioned Infinite Jest, like a reference to Infinite Jest, in the album, in the Calamity song, the December song from The King is Dead. And you know how that little thing that happens where you like hear something repeated like 4 or 5 times in a month span, and you're like, I should check this out.
Yeah, it
just comes to you naturally because I'm like the kind of person who, if someone raves about a book like I'm about to do, I tend to run the other way. I don't want other people's opinion influencing mine. I want it to feel like it was my decision.
That's one of the reasons I haven't read that book
yet. Yeah, so right.
Yeah.
So I wasn't even aware of like this whole cultural cachet that it had, and this is 2011 when I read it for the first time. But it was, I think, because the